The notion of the sanity or the insanity of our society, I think, is a very, very big one. I think it's very big considering the fact that we don't really talk about it. We don't know what we're looking at something, and we don't know what we're looking at. We refer to people as being mentally ill. Um, we have a subcategory of drug addicted. And if I can throw you into one of those two boxes, I don't have to think about you anymore. Oh, that guy's mentally ill. Okay, that means he just erased them from my memory banks. Um, or oh, those people over there, they're drug addicted. And whatever is happening to them is their own fault. And so I'm going to I will ignore them. And you don't get to do that because the people that we're talking about aren't those people. The people we're talking about is us. And there's something reciprocal, there's something interwoven about the the people who are um, acting out in ways that we would rather they not. Okay. Who are uh, give you a couple of examples. You've heard me talk already about the woman who is engaged. She patrols my street here, um, and she is in a highly agitated conversation, and the conversation um, is punctuated by her saying as loud as she can. I can hear her with my windows closed. Get away from me. Now, that's not exactly what she says. I'm taking out all of the expletives. But over and over, she's saying, "Get away from me." And I had to get up and go out to actually confirm the fact that there's nobody near her. And she's not on a telephone. I mean, there are no earbuds, there's no telephone, and she is convinced that there's somebody right near her, and she's walking at a speed to try to get away from this person. Um, Another person that I just interacted with yesterday, a couple of days ago, um, went to Goodwill to check out their book selection. And by the way, if you've never checked out the book set selection at Goodwill, they have a really great one online and in your local store. And there's a guy who was trying on shoes, and he was in the middle of a conversation. And the conversation, if you didn't look at him, the conversation had two different voices. Um, a deeper, clearly man's voice. And am I blurring up? I think I'm blurring up. Okay. Um, so guy had two voices going. A man's voice that would be appropriate to him, and then a high, reedy voice that could have been a woman's voice, except for the fact that it's coming out of him. Um, and the conversation went, um, and again, he's sitting on the floor, and he's trying to get his foot into a shoe. And part of the conversation is just get your foot in the shoe. And again, I'm clearing out the expletives. And the higher voice is no, stop, you're hurting me. This is you're hurting me. And so this is a conversation the guy is having with his own foot. And I stopped. And I wanted to ascertain that this person is actually not talking to his foot because his foot's talking back. He is engaged in a conversation. Um, and it goes on for a while. I mean, I stopped for a few seconds to make sure that I was hearing both sides of this conversation, but um, uh, I went on and checked for my books and things like that, and he was still talking. And so you say, I hear some of you saying, so what? There are crazy people out there, and somebody's having a conversation with his foot or screaming a conversation with a person who is not visible to them, to anybody else. So what? And the so what is that what happens when that person gets a gun and they go to a mall and they decide to start blasting people because they are dealing with a reality that you don't see? But they could kill you, they could kill a loved one, they could disrupt your day, and they could do it um, from their state of insanity. Um, and there's another level to this. And the other level is the is what keeps people, the people I've talked about, you would call street people, you would call homeless people. Okay. But there are plenty of people holding down regular jobs who have six-figure incomes, who um, are seen as pillars of their society and who are equally out of touch with any kind of a common reality. And they have employee assistance plans, and they can get the right drugs to get them functional in society so that they can show up to work, they can act like everybody else, they can do a job, and then um, drive home. And then we forget about them until the next day. We put them in their drug-addled state. Again, the legal drugs, the pharmaceutical drugs, the really expensive ones, and we still stop thinking about them. So before I say what we should be doing, why don't we talk about this? Um, I think that there are probably 20 reasons. I want to talk about two. Um, our media doesn't cover this because the issue is not divisive. What our news media does is throw things at us that will inflame your emotions. Um, and that's generally look at what this other side is doing to you. And then they inflame the other side, and they keep this going as long as it's back in the good old days, I'd say, as long as it's selling newspapers, but nobody buys newspapers anymore. As long as it's selling eyeballs, okay, as long as I can keep your attention and sell advertisements. Um, the second reason why we don't talk about it is that the issue does not have a solution. Let me be a little bit more specific about that. The issue does not have a breaker consciousness solution. In order for it to be solved, we have to step outside of the consciousness which created the problem in the first place. As I said in the blurb that led to this talk, there's a quote by Krishnamurti, who said, or we think he said, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Now, if we look at folks on, let's just start with the left, um, their answer to the people I've talked about and the millions, tens of millions of others is we have to have more mental health training. Well, two things about that. Have you seen how big the problem is? Um, uh, how many millions of mental health counselors do you think we're going to have to train to deal with the tens of millions, and maybe more than that, people who are fundamentally soul starved, fundamentally and profoundly sick? Um, Looking at it from the right says, you know, basically get them away from me, as though there is a place called away and you can send everybody there, um, and find out um, who is on the which country's on the hit list now, so we can just pack them up in airplanes and ship them out, and then we can forget about them. They're not here anymore. Um, it doesn't work like that. It can't work like that. Um, there has to be an answer to the problem, and the answer has to lie inside of the consciousness of our society. We have to have a new consciousness for our society. Guess what we've been working on for the longest time? Guess what we're doing today, right now, in what, 12 minutes, in terms of this catalyst meditation? What we are doing is forming a brand new, shiny, or maybe very ancient and old center for a society that actually works. Our first issue here is to stop calling it mental illness. It is a profound societal sickness. It is a spiritual sickness. It's a sickness in a society where the spirit has been contorted, has been um, ignored, and has been pushed off to the side, marginalized in favor of something else. And the something else is called money. And our challenge is, um, first of all, call it by the right name. This is spiritual illness. This is consciousness illness. This is societal illness. You see somebody walking down the street and they're talking to themselves. They have an illness, and we don't, well, sorry, we do have the cure. We just haven't want to apply it yet. So we will be doing the applying. Um, what this is, and I remember I started this off by saying, um, I'm not doing us a favor by going through this as quickly as I am right now, because to talk about spiritual illness, to talk about spiritual starvation, what does it feel? What does a healthy spiritual life look like? We don't really know. We have we fill ourselves with stuff. We become what I call spiritual tourists. You know, tourists goes to an area, you know what's going to happen there because you voluntarily went to the area. You take your pictures, you do your Om chanting, or you walk across the coals, or you do whatever you knew you were going to do before you go there. And then you go to another area, and then you go to another one, then you go to another one. And the question is, where are when as you are going around in all of these areas, where do you think you're going to find you? Yeah. Every time you go to that area, you are taking a you with you. And that you that you're taking with you is the same connection of thoughts, fears, hopes, dreams, um, attitudes, reactions, um, um, and all that stuff doesn't get unpacked because you're too busy being a spiritual tourist. Time for us to come, time for us to go into our home, and time for us to start radiating because um, all those people who are doing all that stuff are looking for a center of society, and you keep that walled off. You keep that isolated. You keep that um, um, un well, disconnected. Um, I've talked about um, being in a gathering with my friends from the Institute of Noetic Science, IONS, and we were talking about consciousness. Now, we were talking about consciousness in probably the least conscious environment I could think of, which is a cruise ship. And everybody on a cruise ship is doing cruise ship stuff. They're overeating, they're over drinking, they're over partying, they're over. Um, except for this little tiny knot of IONS folks. And we have these IONS badges on. And so people are saying, oh, what's IONS? And it's amazing how the people there didn't answer the question. It's almost like we were embarrassed. Not me. I loved every elevator ride I got into. You want to find out what we're about? um, the but it's almost like people were embarrassed to talk about it, were embarrassed to say, um, yeah, we're the antidote to what you're doing most of your day on this cruise ship. We're not the ones who are doing mindless activity. We're the ones who are being thoughtful and looking at a new way of looking at consciousness. It doesn't take a whole lot to say that. It's an elevator ride. Um, we are the ones as the breaker field, the field of consciousness, which has been running the human element of our planet for the last 10,000 years, when as that is receding and going away, as the new human is beginning to emerge, and by that I mean us, um, we have to increase the holonic field, the field of human activity. And this is the field of connected, concentrated, focused, aware, positive energy. We have to fill ourselves up with that energy. I mean, like we have to be buoyant with that energy, and we have to radiate that out so that people who are not an integral part of our society realize that they need to be doing things differently. Um, okay, and so this means we have to get beyond our human ego. Okay, this is not about me being all I can be. Okay, been there, done that, and that hasn't changed our society. We have to get ourselves beyond our human ego to recognize that I need the consciousness of all other beings. I need to blend that, and all of us together will solve this problem. Um, and we need to raise this spiritual energy by doing activities that we're going to be doing in 5 minutes. We yeah, reach over and pat yourself on the back. We're actually doing this right now. I mean, seriously. Um, and we will be doing more than that. Will the dozen people online make a difference in society? You bet we will. Okay, because as we're doing this, we will be expanding our humanness, expanding our consciousness, and having people and creating a society where people actually fit in. I want to show you a very short video here. I shot this a couple of months ago, and I need some buttons here. Um, this is a woman who was across, she had pitched a tent across the street from my apartment. And I noticed that she was doing something almost every day. And I actually walked over and talked with her for a bit. And so here she is. And this is not me talking. I was shooting out my window on this, but I went over and talked with her. No sound is on this. And she, I hope you can see this. And she's not. Okay, here we go. And she is flicking dirt. She's in the rain and she's flicking dirt out of the curb, and she considers herself cleaning the street and cleaning the sidewalk. She had cleaned all the cracks in the sidewalk, and now she's dealing with the interface between the sidewalk and the street. And when I went over and asked her about cleaning the sidewalk, she had this big smile on her face. And I'm going to show you that this is really sure. I'll show you one more time. Um, she had this big smile on her face, and she said, "I'm making the world a better place here. I'm cleaning this up. I'm doing my duty for my community." And and she wasn't. She made it look a lot worse because all this crap is now like on the street and on the sidewalk. People are stepping in it, etc. But she had the right idea. If we were a healthy society, I would have some place for her to clean. I'd have gotten her a really good broom. I'd have gotten her the right tools. I'd have said, you do you do not with this little blade that you found, but you have the right stuff to do with it. You pick it up, somebody will be along to collect that, and well, somebody will be along and give you 20 bucks, or 30 bucks. Um, she would be as happy as a clam. The street would be cleaner. Everything would work, and that society doesn't exist because she would have to go online and apply for the job, and she would have to give her criminal record. She'd have to show her employment history. She'd have to do all this stuff that she can't do. So why don't we actually have people we create a society not going through the bureaucratic garbage that we've created, but create a society that actually works for someone like her, so that she can feel that she is uh, a healthy living member of that society.